guys, today I am out in Napa with Nick behind the camera. Say hi to Nick, everybody there. And we are taking a look at the latest Subaru WRX. This is the WRX TS. Until we can get a new WRX STi, which is probably not happening anytime soon, this is the ultimate version of the WRX. And let's talk about why. All right, I've gone ahead and grabbed the camera from Nick. Let's talk about the design first, including this cool blue paint job.
Yeah, this blue has been around for a very long time with the WRX name, and they carry it on to this TS. Now, for 2025, there is no TR like we had in 24. This TS is replacing it. It does stand for something, the STi in a way, as the electronically adjustable dampers are tuned by STi or Subaru Technica International, is it right? Is it
I believe that sounds right.
Okay, that sounds right.
Let us know down there in the comment section if we are wrong, but at the moment, that sounds really right.
Yeah, but we'll talk about the dampers and all of the performance aspects here in just a little bit. But in terms of outside aesthetics, we have a shiny black plastic grille insert, and then really the biggest changes are going to be the red WRX and badging around the outside of the vehicle.
And that has a name, Cherry Blossom Red, we were told, in case you're wondering, for that WRX logo. We have kind of some body cladding that I'm actually a little surprised by in the WRX, because it has more of an off-roady vibe with a sort of golf ball-like octagonal texture there. Now, sort of fun fact about the WRX, one way to see this model is it's the only way to get an Impreza sedan, because obviously it's closely related to the Impreza, but WRX is now unique as far as this body style. Only sedan, and it's the only way to get a small Subaru sedan, because Impreza is hatchback only. And that definitely gives us a different character and a different vibe, but it also makes sense because Subaru said that in their research, customers of the sedan body shape were expecting something sportier, and customers of the WRX were really expecting the sedan profile. Although I do find it a little bit sad that we can't get the practicality of the hatchback or more of a wagon format with this level of performance. Now, speaking of performance, again, we have a lot of that plastic cladding around that looks a little bit more off-roady to me. Maybe that makes sense with the Subaru ethos, of course, but we have a lot of performance details if you go in for a little closer look. So we have these air vents out, these release pressure on the outside of the front wheel well there, and very similar intakes on the other side coming from that front end. On the wheel front, we get 19-inch wheels that are exclusive to the WRX. And of course, this is again the TS, so we have these exclusive massive 6-piston Brembo brakes, cross-drilled rotors, front and rear, and they're wrapped in Bridgestone Potenza S007 summer tires. Pretty wide tires too, 245/35 R19s, they're standard, but the big deal back here is that not only do we get Brembo rear brakes, we also get cross-drilled rotors in the back. Both of those things I think are a little bit surprising. And then Subaru would like us to know that we have the exclusive black mirror caps here. If you come in for a closer look though, this is kind of a two-tone mirror cap with sort of a sparkly black paint on top and then matte black on the bottom of that mirror cap. Moving around to the back, we again have more of that golf ball-like texture and, you know, a surprisingly high rear bumper, I would say.
Yeah, I can almost fit my whole body underneath that, and that's quite impressive. Well, maybe it's impressive, maybe it's a downfall in some people's eyes, but I think it allows for some versatility on-road as well as off-road. If you do have to go on weekends to go camping or whatever it may be, you can still take your WRX TS if you want to go that route, and with the electronically adjustable dampers on the TS, you can do more than you can with said TR or even just a standard WRX.
Yep, and that's definitely something that Subaru was talking about in their presentation, because apparently WRX owners are much more likely than segment average to go camping, have pets, things like that. And of course, we have the rally heritage of the WRX to begin with, which I suppose that all ties in with this sort of more rugged looking performance vehicle, definitely than we find in Type R or SI or Golf R, etc., right?
For sure. I don't think going on any dirt roads with potholes or anything in a GTI or anything of competitive nature to the WRX, I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as the Subaru, just like you said. Not. As the pedigree allows, Subaru is the off-road or the adventurous manufacturer.
Down here at the bottom, of course, we have the quad exhaust tips. That's a really cool look. Again, the cherry blossom red over there on WRX, the TS logo right there. And then the sparkly black accents. I am kind of surprised that the black accents around are not all the same color. So we have that matte black down there at the bottom. That's going to be a lot easier to replace if you do tear it up when you're rally driving. And then up here we have more of the shiny black sparkly accents there. And then of course again that actual trunk. We'll take a look at that in just a moment.
Subaru has long been known for their safety, and on the WRX models, whether you go for automatic or manual, the latest Subaru EyeSight will come as standard. Lane keep assist, steering assist, and adaptive cruise control.
Yep, and it's all provided by this dual camera setup behind the windscreen, which is why they call it Subaru EyeSight. So instead of some of the competitors which use suites of radar sensors and ultrasonic sensors around, here no radar sensors happening up front. We do have that camera right there, of course, but it is worth noting that one of the features I think that I would like to see on the WRX would be at least rear parking sensors, and interestingly, we don't find rear parking sensors back here at all. Now it's time to dive under the hood, because this is what makes the WRX unique in this segment. Not just from the sound, of course, which is definitely unique in a boxer engine, but also driving dynamics and indeed style as well, because boxer engines are really low to the ground. They tend to be a lot squatter than the average inline engine, and that's really obvious here. Because the engine itself, it's actually quite far down under here. We're taking a look at the plumbing, the accessories on top. We have a top-mounted intercooler, top-mounted alternator as well, so all the accessories are really way above the engine. The engine itself is nice and low, and that's what gives this that center of gravity that the WRX has always been known for. Now, there are pros and cons to this, because it also gives the WRX the front heavy weight bias that it's long been known for. This is the front strut tower, and you can see that the entire engine is in front of the front suspension. But this has a very different drivetrain design than a GR Corolla or a Civic Type R or a Golf R, because it has a longitudinal transmission. So the transmission is actually behind that front axle, not in front of it like we find in pretty much every other competitor in this segment. Power comes in at 271. That is probably the only thing I would love to see different in the WRX. I would love to see 300 horsepower to more directly compete with the Golf, the Civic, and of course the GR Corolla. But all-wheel drive is certainly one reason to select this over the Civic Type R, because you still can't get all-wheel drive in the Civic. And of course that is standard here, even when mated with the manual transmission. We should talk about transmissions actually, because Subaru says 86% of WRXs go off the line with the 6-speed manual. It's by far the most popular transmission, but if you want an automatic, you have that option. You can get the Subaru Performance transmission, which is basically their CVT programmed to imitate a stepped automatic. That's not my favorite transmission in this segment, but it is available, and that is something that you don't get in the Civic Type R or the Civic Si. On those vehicles, if you want to row your own, you can, and if you don't want to row your own, you have to buy something else. Here, you do have that option. All right, let's check out the interior, starting with the front seats. We have a power driver's seat here, no adjustable lumbar support, but we do get quite a lot of support out of this seat. We have really aggressive bottom bolsters and back bolsters. These are Recaro seats, so they definitely have that sporty feel to them. They really help keep you in the seat. At my body size and shape, I'm about 6 feet tall, about 180 pounds. These seats fit just about right. If you're much wider than I am, you should know that these are going to be a little bit constrictive. But if you have broader shoulders than I do and a narrower torso, you should be just fine, because the shoulder area of the seat, I think, is really well designed. We'll take a look at that in just a second. It's pretty easy to find the pedals. Of course, this model is the manual one, so we have 3 of them down there, and we have a tilt telescopic steering column with a solid range of motion. Now let's set the parking brake, and I'll grab the camera from Nick, because he's going to go ahead and try out the back seat. Let's see how this goes. Nick, back there.
And is the seat adjusted for where you're going to be sitting comfortably?
The seat is adjusted for me, so you have a bit of leg room there.
Yeah, leg room's not bad. Headroom is not great. My head is planted directly on top of this headliner. So you are going to have to slouch a little bit, scoot your butt forward, and kind of get in a more relaxed position to really fit comfortably back here.
That's pretty common for this segment. I'll go ahead and hand you the camera, because then we'll do the reverse. I will go ahead and sit behind that passenger seat, which was adjusted for you. So let's see how this compares, so you can get an idea of how people will fit in the back. Again, I have a little bit more leg room than on the other side. Headroom, still on the limiting side. Remember, this is not unusual for a compact sedan in America, whether we're talking about Corolla or Civic or Jetta, etc. Headroom in the back is not exactly their forte. Of course, we have the new K4, which is not a forte, but doesn't have extra legroom. As far as child seat fitment, that is something I'm intrigued about. I'm gonna actually grab my tape measure because Subaru says that a lot of their customers are young families. So let's see exactly how this sorts out. Okay, let's go ahead. I'll have you hop out so I can measure behind myself here. I'll give the WRX its best chance at success. We'll measure 11 inches up from the seat bottom and then over there to the seat back. Ooh, you know, 29 inches, that's actually a little bit more than I thought. That means that you might be able to fit a rear-facing Kiko child seat or some of those larger child seats behind a 6-foot-tall driver up front. That's a good score because you certainly cannot do that in the GR Corolla. That is just too small. Civic Type R you can, but you know, you're not going to get all-wheel drive in that Type R. Now, obviously, the WRX does not have the practicality of a hatchback. If you want that, we have the Impreza, of course, the rest of the Subaru lineup, or some of the options like Type R, Golf R, GTI, etc. We do, however, have a reasonably sized trunk for this segment. You can't put these 22-inch roller bags in their upright position, though, but there's still a reasonable amount of room back here. And then under the floor, we don't find a spare tire. There is a little bit of additional storage room. I'll let Nick continue pulling that floor up so you can see that big foam divider under there, but you will find certainly more practical space in some of the hatchback competition. However, you could probably still stick 4 sets of tires in here if you wanted to for your track day by folding down those rear seats and using all of that area for your wheels and tires. They're certainly going to fit through this opening. Now let's look around the interior because there are some changes, especially versus the TR. The first thing that I noticed, of course, is the amount of blue accenting we find in here. Are you a fan of the blue? I think we could actually use more of it.
You know, I don't know if I could use more of it, but I think I'll get used to it here in a little bit, but it is a lot to take in initially. It's a hard hit. Right?
You know, the seats aren't totally blue. We just have the blue bolster accents there, but the bulk of the seat's not blue. Yeah,
I'm glad the whole seat isn't blue, including the Alcantara or the suede. I'm glad that it's somewhat minimal. You do get blue accent stitching found here and there, like on the steering wheel here and on those bolsters.
Mm-hmm. I think on the dashboard over here too.
Yep, I think it complements the car nicely. I'm kind of
not a blue fan.
On it. Well, I like blue. It's just kind of blending in with your shirt a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Blending into that seat. But no, I think it looks nice.
Maybe it's because I'm blue inside. Over here we have suede on the dashboard, and then of course that leatherette accent there. So definitely some premium dashboard materials that we don't find in all the competition. Soft touch upper section there. This is not a shiny black plastic strip. It's not exactly matte, but it's somewhere along there, so it doesn't appear to show scratches quite as easily as some. Decently sized glove compartment down there. I suspect an 11-inch tablet would sit inside nicely. Now, speaking of tablet, of course, we have this big screen in the dashboard.
Yep, about an 11-inch screen that you're going to find like you had in the TR or your standard WRX. It's running the same operating system from Subaru, but what is unique about this is if you are utilizing Apple CarPlay wirelessly and you are using Apple Maps or Google Maps, it will now show up on your 12-inch digital display that is here on the TS.
And that's a big, big change because we have never had a full LCD cluster in any Subaru before. And I have to say they did a really good job with this because not only do we get this 2-screen CarPlay setup, Android Auto users, not Otters, Android Otters would be a totally different thing by Google. They should know that you do not get two-screen Google Android Auto in the WRX TS. Wow. At any rate, so you don't get that, but you do get factory mapping, of course, in there for the factory navigation. Now go ahead and change to one of those other views there. We get a safety focused view, and then we get a dial view, which I think is my favorite as far as its general design. Little STi logo over there, kind of nice touch. And that's all controlled, what, those buttons down there?
Yep, down here on the lower left of the steering wheel, you press and hold the middle button, and that changes your viewpoints here on your digital display. Now you can also toggle through some different aspects of your miles.
Trip computer things?
Yeah, trip computer, miles per gallon, turbo pressure,
and
things like that. Listen to Snoop Dogg's Young, Wild, and Free on our Apple CarPlay.
Which of these displays is your favorite? I like the dials, I think, or
I like
the map.
the dials as well. I do love the little STi Easter egg in that dial on the left side. I mean, I like using the maps. Unfortunately, if Google Maps isn't supported, I probably won't use it all that often. Apple Maps is not my forte, so I would probably just use the dials.
Yep, and over here we have the controls for the adaptive cruise control, that lane centering program, and the drive mode button. So they have a drive mode button up here, but you have a bunch of different ways to control your drive mode, and we should talk about that here because we have lots of different drive mode settings. I love the configurability of this. On individual, you have this entire, sorry about the glare there, guys, it's difficult to actually show you. There we go. So, you know, you have a lot of configurability for the eyesight system. This is going to help make sure that eyesight doesn't, you know, automatically go off when you're doing stupid things out on the road. And then you have the choices for suspension, steering, power unit, etc. In all of these other modes, it's not configurable. It's simply showing you how that's going to toggle through. Now, the adaptive suspension system, that is one of the big things they mentioned as a difference between this and the TR that we had last year, right?
Correct. Yep, exactly. As well as the electronic powerly adjustable steering. So in comfort mode, if you press that again, you see in comfort mode, steering is going to be what you're going to find in your standard WRX. Normal in sport is going to be stiffer up at higher speeds, giving you a little bit more confidence at those higher speeds, more so than your standard WRX.
And the suspension settings, I was really shocked by this. They said this has about 30% less roll and 55% less pitch than the TR that we drove last year.
Yep, I'm expecting to see a big difference here on our drive section. We're going to do a road section today, trying to drive around some twisty roads here in Napa Valley, as well as going to the track a little bit later and seeing when you really push the suspension, how it's going to handle the interactions.
Yeah, now down here we have a 12-volt power port, auxiliary input. I am shocked that we still have that, but that's definitely going to be handy if you are going retro with your cassette deck. And then we have USB-C, USB-A, 3 amps output, which is a nice touch there, but no wireless charging, Matt. And you will notice wireless CarPlay is the only way you can CarPlay, so that is kind of an odd twist. You still have to plug in your phone if you want to charge it. 6-speed manual, of course, in this model, and hallelujah, reverse is exactly where it belongs, right over there to the right and then down. What's your preference? Are you a right and down for reverse person, or are you a left and down or left and up, depending on the car?
I would say right and down. Left and down you might get confused in some situations.
Yeah, that's my worry.
If you're getting confused after a year of ownership, you might need to reconsider having a manual, but it is nice. It seems more natural to have it all the way to the right, as if you are stopped or at low speeds, you're not going to be trying to shift to third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. So
yeah.
It's in a little bit more of an easier spot.
And there's still a little collar there in case you're wondering. So it does lock out reverse, you know, unless you lift that. Big cup holders here. You can see my smartphone's hanging out there. A little tiny storage tray. More blue accenting. This is definitely Smurf blue, in case you're wondering, guys. It is very, very blue. Moderately sized storage compartment. And then before we get out on the road, we should talk about the seat design and the bolsters, since now Nick is modeling the seat here. So we have the WRX TS logo embroidered there on the back of that head restraint, Recaro logo midpoint. How do you feel about the shoulder room there?
Shoulder room's not too bad. It definitely hugs my shoulders. I do have a little bit of a broader shoulder stance, or whatever you want to call it. I do have broader shoulders, so I am kind of on the maximum of where you can fit inside these seats. I would say that the hips and the thighs, listen, I could use a couple of pounds off, but it's hugging me pretty tight. So if you're any bigger than I am, it's going to be a tight fit in these bolstered seats. They're very tightly bolstered for sure, but it'll hold you in on track so you can really take advantage of what this vehicle has to offer.
All right, it's time to get the WRX TS out on the road. We have Nick behind the wheel because I spent the first part of the day driving, and in our first part of the day driving, we went 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could have been improved if you really beat on this car a little bit harder, but, you know, we'll take 6.5 seconds.
I would bet that in the hands of a professional driver, this is probably down there towards 6 seconds. You know, obviously we tried, you know, higher revs, not exactly a clutch dump, but we don't want to damage Subaru's transmission, of course.
Yeah.
All-wheel drive is definitely going to have a bit of a bog issue versus some of the front-wheel drive options. They're going to allow a lot of wheel spin, but realistically, everybody, you know, professional drivers might get better, but you're probably going to be faster in the options with an automatic.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But 6.5 seconds isn't too bad. I mean, this isn't going to be a drag racing vehicle. The real focus is going to be the on-road and on-track handling, which we're going to experience here when we get to Sonoma Raceway here in just a tad bit. But while we're driving through these canyons, you can definitely tell that there is a major difference. Well, maybe not major. There is a difference between Comfort and Sport Plus in terms of suspension. This is my first initial. You guys are seeing the first part of my driving, so I have not yet experienced this in the driver's seat. passenger seat, you can definitely feel more bumps, more movement in the body, going over bumps in Sport Plus, and comfort definitely is still stiff, but it's a little bit more respectable on road.
I will say I like the suspension tune here. I was a little bit worried. Obviously, WRX is focused on a demographic that wants handling and precision and firmer suspension tunes, etc. So I was a little bit worried that even comfort wouldn't be that comfortable, but the WRX I think is still a really solid daily driver. And if I were to get one, I would absolutely need the models with the adaptive suspension system because comfort's going to be much more livable for your daily commute. And if you want it, sportier, you can put it in normal, which is what we're in now, right?
Yep.
And then if you want to go even further, of course, there's Sport Plus where things get even firmer. The thing that we both noticed the most, though, was how much better tip and dive and body roll is in the corners. This is really, really planted in the corners thanks to the adaptive dampers. They also made some additional suspension tweaks here and there, they said, but 55% less pitch and dive, tip and dive rather, and 30% less body roll. That's a pretty substantial improvement.
Yeah, it feels very planted around corners. And the S007 Bridgestone Potenzas are very sticky tires, and now it is 91 degrees outside, so we're getting optimal temperatures in terms of getting heat into those tires. But on a colder day, those are going to be a little bit slippery, and on dirt roads and things like that, it will pick up those rocks and fling them. But
yes, for sure.
When you really want to utilize what this vehicle is meant for, those S007s or S007s are a very sticky tire that helps kind of complement the stiff steering and the stiff suspension here in the TR.
Now, the Pilot Sports are fantastic, so I think I would probably go towards a Pilot Sport if I were to replace these. But the stopping distance, even on these tires, was fantastic. We did 111 feet.
Yep. Yeah, we may be able to improve that just by a tad bit, but 111 feet is going to be around the average of what you're going to find, and that's a respectable amount of distance, and it's going to be a safe distance stopping you in case of emergency.
Yeah, it's a really solid number. Now, let's talk about the engine and the transmission. Personally, I found the shift throws to be a little bit longer than I would like, but I really appreciate the engagement of the transmission. It's really, really easy to know exactly which gear you're in. Like, finding that gear is easy. You really know you're in it, so I think missed shifts are going to be more difficult in this than in some transmissions, which the engagement is just not as notchy. So this has a good feel there. The clutch pedal is a little bit long for me. I think that my personal preference leans a bit more towards Honda's the Civic's clutch engagement and shifter feel, but I think this is a really solid combo still.
Yeah, it's good for a larger audience too. You don't have to be, excuse me, you don't have to be an avid manual driver to be able to drive this vehicle. It's not a difficult clutch to understand. Like, I just hopped in this. This is my first time driving a manual in months, and right away, I mean, it's a very
full stop, no California stops, even though we're in California.
Yep.
Everybody, we stopped. Let's rev this up though, because just keep it in second gear for a bit. Just bring us up there to maybe 5,000 RPM. It's that classic boxer sound. Some people love that, some people don't. How do you feel about it? I've always been a little bit uncertain because boxers are smooth feeling. The way that they're balanced is very natural, but they don't sound as refined as inline fours to me.
The way this engine is set up in terms of the type of boost it's pushing through it, the power it's producing, it isn't the best sounding motor. I don't find it to be.
You have to really love boxer sounds, and some people do. So I don't think there's a wrong answer personally for that. But if you're shopping this versus Type R versus whatever, know that this is the only boxer in the segment, and it is going to sound different. It's also not going to rev as high as some of the others. So Redline's 6,000 RPM basically there, it looks like?
Yep, and it's a pretty harsh cutoff. Pretty harsh cutoff at 6,000. It's not like you can over rev it to 65 or 63. It does a little bit of a fuel cut and a chip at 6,000 RPM where you do need to shift. So, I mean, that's a respectable amount of RPM. I would like maybe just a little bit more out of it, and obviously a little bit more power. I would like to see over that 300 horsepower mark, especially in an edition like a TS. But we're just going to have to do with the 270 that we have here.
In the emissions reality world that we live in now, where CAFE fines are getting more expensive over time, that's the corporate average fuel economy fines, emissions compliance, not just in the US, but in Europe and Japan, etc., is definitely tightening. I don't know if we're ever going to see a world where a company like Subaru can really afford to develop the transmissions and all-wheel drive systems, etc., to handle that much more power than this. So I think that from the factory, 400 horsepower is just an unrealistic hope for Subaru. I mean, I would love to see it. I don't think that we're going to be able to see it from this company. You know, and there's a reason that we also don't see 400 horsepower and all-wheel drive from Honda. Same sort of size issues, or Mazda, etc. Toyota can afford to do it with the GR Corolla because they sell so many Priuses, and that's not something that Subaru has to offer to, you know, kind of offset that. But on the other hand, I would say that it does seem like Subaru is relatively, as far as car companies go, relatively open to the tuning market and kind of excited when tuners do things to their vehicles. So if you do want more power, there is that aftermarket tuner. So now let's get this out on the track, Nick. We have a different Nick in front of us. I don't know whether he's going to be faster or slower than us. And sorry about yelling out there. These helmets have hearing protection in them, so I don't know how loud I'm talking.
What's that?
Huh? What's that? Hey?
They do muffle quite a bit.
I need an ear trumpet.
Yeah.
At any rate, you know, the WRX is not the lightest entry in this segment. The other thing I noticed is that the third and fourth gear positioning is probably not where I would want to be as an amateur. Clearly, if you were really used to the WRX, I think it would be more fun. But I find myself just going a little bit too slow for fourth gear and a little bit too fast for third gear sometimes. But the level of grip is really solid on these Bridgestone tires. Maybe I'll let Nick stretch his feet out in front of us a little bit more here. The other thing I noticed, again, though, is the all-wheel drive system. And that's one of the big differences after having played on this track with the Civic Type R and a number of the other competitors in this segment, we're at Sonoma Raceway, by the way, is that the all-wheel drive system is really an advantage here, exiting the corners compared to the front-wheel drive competition. Don't get me wrong, they are a lot of fun, but this is just the kind of vehicle where you can apply that power a little bit sooner, ring it out a little bit harder, and then you come into some of these corners and then I have to debate to myself, do I really want third gear? Yeah, third gear, okay. This is just a hoot and a half weekend car. Great levels of grip, great all-wheel drive system. And perhaps more importantly, there's the comfort. You'll really notice that tip and dive, body roll, etc. is very well controlled in here, really obvious out on this track surface. And of course, the big meaty Brembo brakes. You can really come in a lot harder.
Wow, the stop's good.
But it's still heavy up front, just as you'd expect. So you can really tell in that corner there, the front end is still heavier than some of the competition. We have not been able to drive the model with the automatic transmission. That is something I would like to try, just to see how that feels in comparison to this. But yeah, if you want to do track day weekends in your WRX, I think this is good to go.
He's braking late.
Big brakes, brake late. Oh, he's deliberately going for the rally turn.
He's trying to smoke screen you.
So how much is the new WRX TS going to cost you? Well, unfortunately, we don't quite know yet. Subaru is having us drive this before it goes on sale and before pricing has been announced. That does make comparisons and relative value statements pretty tricky for the WRX, but it's probably going to cost about the same or perhaps a little bit more than the current WRX GT. And that makes a lot of sense because it certainly has some of the tech from the WRX GT, with the addition, of course, of that new full LCD cluster, which we will probably see in other Subaru models over the next year or so. They won't talk about that exactly, but you know that they didn't develop a brand new LCD cluster just for a specific trim of WRX. Now, price-wise, about $45,000 or so is going to put this right in the thick of the competition, basically the same as a Civic Type R, right about the same as a comparably equipped GR Corolla, the Golf R, etc. They're all going to be in a very similar price range. But this is going to be unique in the fact that it's the only sedan in the segment. So if we go back here and you really want this more traditional sports car look, sedan look, This is really the only one here. You could compare this to a Jetta GLI, but it doesn't have all-wheel drive. It's just not quite the same thing, and we don't have a Jetta R like we have in the Golf R. To be honest, I would pick the WRX over a lot of these front-wheel drive options that you might be cross-shopping this against, whether that is the Elantra N or a Civic Si, or I hate to say it, even a Civic Type R. The Type R is an awful lot of fun, but for me, it's a little bit too single-purposed because it lacks all-wheel drive. If I were to daily drive the Type R, I would find myself being rather ginger on the throttle, to be honest, because the lack of four-wheel motivation means that in my area, it's just going to be a handful. The front-wheel drive only nature is certainly a lot of fun out on the track behind me. It was an incredible blast on this exact track. However, this is easier to drive. So if you are looking for something that's fun, fast, easy to live with, and easy to drive, that is absolutely the WRX. And I would certainly get the manual transmission over the Subaru Performance Automatic. That is essentially a reprogrammed CVT. It's not as slick shifting as especially the dual clutches you find in some of the competition, and this manual transmission is just a really good fit for the vehicle. Let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below. And importantly, would you get this over a Golf R or a GR Corolla, the two direct competitors with all-wheel drive, bearing in mind that they're very different. Those are very hatchbacky, upright things. This has a bigger back seat, and of course the sedan profile, which is yet again pretty unique. And I am going to be driving the GR Corolla in 3 days from filming this video. So be sure and stay tuned for that, because that's coming up real soon. And the GR Corolla now has the option of an 8-speed automatic transmission, a real, live, regular 8-speed automatic with a torque converter. So if you're worried about slow and go, stop and go driving, but you still want to have a lot of fun with 300 horsepower, that is the GR Corolla now. If I had one request, one modification for this, which admittedly you could fix yourself aftermarket, it would be for the horsepower figure to raise up to maybe 300 to 330 horsepower. I think that would be a rational place to stop for the WRX. But that is not what we see at the moment, and based on some just business realities around the world, I don't know if we're ever going to get there. Let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section below. Check out our related videos, and of course check out that upcoming GR Corolla video and our coverage of the Civic Type R. And in the meantime, let me know what you think the WRX TS should or will be priced at. Again, don't know that exact number yet, but we'll see all of you later. Bye now.